Food fraud experts have been warning that the sudden appearance of large tariffs on US imports and their unpredictability would increase the likelihood of food fraud by providing more motivation for traders to engage in deception. Has this predicted increase in food fraud come to pass? Perhaps. We don't have quantitative data that can be definitively linked to the motivations or intentions of fraudsters. But here is one example of a food fraud that could have been motivated by the tariffs. In April, a large shipment of onions arrived in the Philippines by sea. The ship was allegedly from China, and the onions were illegally declared as processed chicken karaage on import papers. Food smuggling and illegal imports happen every day, and I rarely include them in my food fraud news unless the story is unusual or shows us a new hazard or vulnerability. To me, this smuggling attempt looked like business as usual. However, last week I learned new information about the shipment when New Food magazine published an opinion piece by Professor Chris Elliott, food fraud superstar and author of the groundbreaking Elliott review of the infamous 2013 horse meat scandal. In his article, Professor Elliott says the onions were highly contaminated and full of salmonella and heavy metals. He says it's thought that the shipment of onions was originally destined for the United States, but its owners had to change their plans when the US imposed large tariffs on goods arriving from China. He said he was told the ship had waited in the South China Sea for a considerable period of time before the onions owners decided to try to offload them in the Philippines, committing fraud in the process by declaring the shipment as chicken. That totally makes sense to me. However, it's worth noting that this is unverified. Why declare onions as processed chicken products? Most likely to avoid phytosanitary or biosecurity controls, which are more strict for whole fresh produce and processed foods, or perhaps to avoid commodity-related duties imposed by the Philippines. The outcome? In this case, the authorities caught the shipment and seized the contaminated contraband. And if you're a paying subscriber, you can get access to the original stories in New Food magazine and also to a news article published in the Philippines about the smuggled onions. And you can become a paying subscriber for $11.50 US per month, which is less than a container load of contaminated onions. And you'll be helping me in the work that I do every week in keeping you up to date on the latest food safety and food fraud news.